The old neon redwood gas and groceries sign buzzed overhead as Aisha slid the last crate of energy drinks under the counter. It was nearly midnight, the hour when the highways emptied and the town felt hollow, like the world was holding its breath. She stretched her sore shoulders and glanced at the clock, 2 minutes to closing. Good, she just wanted to lock up, call her mother, and bike home before the night chill set in. A soft clatter echoed from aisle 2. Aisha frowned. Still here. She leaned sideways and saw 3 large motorcycles parked outside, chrome catching the dim streetlight. Their riders, 6 men in patched leather, had come in about 20 minutes ago, quiet and focused, grabbing snacks and thermal bottles. They barely spoke, except a polite nod from the tallest one. Bikers made many customers nervous, but these men had been respectful. Aisha stepped around the aisle, and froze. The bikes were still outside. But the riders were nowhere in sight. Probably in the back getting road maps, she muttered, trying to reassure herself. Still, she felt a prickle at the base of her neck. There were corners of this store even she didn't like walking into at night. She returned to the counter and reached for the keys. The front door rattled. Aisha's stomach dropped. 3 men pushed in, hoods up, hands shoved in pockets in a way that made her heart thump. They didn't look like customers. One kicked the doorstop aside with his boot. "We're closing," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. They smirked. "Lucky us." The one in front, thin, sharp-featured, leaned across the counter. "We just need a lil' service." The second man drifted down an aisle, knocking items off the shelves with deliberate slowness. The third hovered by the door, watching the street. Aisha's pulse hammered. She quickly scanned the store again. No sign of the bikers. No footsteps. No sound. Nothing. The leader tapped the counter with a coin, eyes predatory. "Why don't you open the register, sweetheart? No need to make things messy." Aisha swallowed hard. She kept her hands steady, but fear tightened her chest like a vice. And in the silence that followed, she heard it, very faint, very slow, the metallic click of heavy boots stepping out from behind aisle 3. They weren't alone after all. Aisha didn't dare turn her head, but the sound of the heavy bootstep echoed again, slow, steady, and unmistakably deliberate. The leader of the thugs paused mid-sentence, his sneer faltering as his eyes flicked over her shoulder. "What was that?" he snapped, more irritated than afraid. Aisha pretended not to notice. Her hands hovered above the register, trembling just enough to look convincing. "It's old flooring," she lied. "It creaks all the time." Another step. Then another. This time, everyone heard it. The thug by the chips aisle stopped wrecking shelves and straightened up, eyes narrowing into the dim store. "Yo, someone else here," he muttered. Aisha's breath caught. She didn't know if the bikers were armed. She didn't know if they were dangerous. But she knew one thing. They were big. And they were still inside. The leader jerked his chin at the aisle. "Go check." The thug cursed under his breath and stalked forward, pushing past racks of candy and jerky. As he reached the end of aisle 3, he called out, "Hey! I don't know who you think." He didn't finish. A massive hand shot out, grabbing him by the front of his hoodie and yanking him behind the aisle. There was a muffled thud, something heavy hitting the floor, and then nothing. The other 2 thugs stiffened. What the hell was that? The leader hissed. Aisha's fear shifted into something else, hope, or maybe awe. Because now the footsteps weren't trying to be quiet anymore. They were coming slow and heavy, like someone very large was making a point. A shadow filled the end of the aisle before a figure stepped out, one of the bikers, the tall one who had nodded at her earlier. 6'4" at least, shoulders like stacked bricks, leather vest marked with a wolf emblem on the back. He cracked his neck, then his knuckles, like he'd just woken up from a nap. "You boys picking the wrong night," he said calmly, voice low and gravelly. The leader pulled a switchblade with a shaky hand. "Back off, old man." Behind the biker, 2 more of his crew emerged from different aisles, forming a silent wall. Their expressions were almost bored. Aisha exhaled shakily. "Oh, thank God." The leader swallowed hard. The biker took a step forward. "Store's closed," he said. The leader's eyes darted between Aisha and the 3 bikers now forming a silent barrier across the store. His confidence had been a swagger. Now it was shaky, like a candle flickering in the wind. You think a few motorcycle tough guys are gonna scare us?" he barked, trying to regain control. The tallest biker, still calm, shoulders squared, stepped closer, the dim fluorescent lights bouncing off his leather vest. "Not scare, warn," he said evenly, each word deliberate. His voice was low, but it carried a weight that made the thug hesitate. "This isn't your playground. You're done." Aisha clutched the counter, her knuckles white. Every second stretched unbearably, her heart hammering like a drum. The thugs glanced around, trying to figure out an escape route, but the store's layout and the bikers' positions left them boxed in. The thin thug, the one who had first pushed through the door, swallowed hard. He fidgeted with the zipper on his hoodie. "Listen, we don't want trouble," he muttered, but the leader shook his head sharply. "No way out," the leader spat, stepping forward. His hand twitched toward the switchblade still clutched in his fist. But before he could make a move, the biker raised one hand. Slow, controlled, like a master signaling a fight to pause. "Back, or it gets messy. Your choice," he said, eyes locked on the leader. The air inside the store felt heavier, each second charged with tension. A crate of canned soda teetered on the edge of the counter, waiting for a misstep to send it crashing. The other two thugs shifted nervously, realizing that the intimidation they had brought into the store was now being turned against them. Aisha's courage, fueled by the presence of the bikers, bubbled up. She stepped forward slightly. "Please, just go," she said, her voice steady now, though her pulse raced. "I'm done with this. You don't need to hurt anyone." The leader hesitated, scanning the bikers. His bravado faltered under the weight of their silent strength. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he backed toward the door. The thin thug followed, eyes glued to the floor. Their third companion tripped over a rug as he tried to retreat, the biker by aisle 3 catching him effortlessly, shoving him out of the way without a word. The door slammed behind them. Silence fell over the store. Aisha's shoulders sagged in relief, her breath shaky but coming in deep, cleansing gasps. The bikers didn't say much. They simply nodded at her, a quiet assurance. "You okay?" the tallest asked, tilting his head. Aisha gave a small, grateful smile. "Yeah, thanks to you." Outside, the motorcycles idled, their engines low and steady, waiting for the night to continue. Inside, the store smelled faintly of spilled soda and fear, but also safety, an unspoken promise that some nights, heroes arrive when you least expect them. The thugs were gone. The door's lock clicked shut behind them, but Aisha didn't move immediately. She stayed behind the counter, hands pressed against the cool surface, letting the adrenaline ebb slowly from her veins. The store felt different now, quieter, safer, but the shadow of what could have happened lingered in the corners. The tallest biker leaned against the counter, removing his helmet. His hair fell in dark waves over a weathered face that somehow radiated both calm and strength. "You handled yourself well," he said, his gravelly voice warm, almost reassuring. "Not many people keep their head when it gets tense." Aisha forced a small laugh, still trembling. I didn't do much. You guys," she gestured to the bikers, "you saved me." The biker shrugged, a faint grin tugging at the corner of his lips. "We look out for each other. And for people who can't fight back. That's the rule." Another biker came from the aisle where the first thug had tripped over the rug. He wiped his hands on a cloth, carefully resetting the cans and snacks the intruders had knocked over. "Mess cleaned," he said. Simple, understated, but precise, as if leaving no trace of chaos mattered. Aisha watched them work, a mixture of relief and awe washing over her. She realized that these were not just bikers, they were protectors in leather vests, silent guardians who could appear without warning and make the world tilt back toward safety. The store's fluorescent lights hummed softly, a normalcy returning after the night's chaos. Aisha wiped the sweat from her forehead, feeling an unexpected sense of calm settle over her. "Thank you," she said again, more sincerely this time. I don't know how I can repay you." The tallest biker shook his head. "No need. Just stay safe, and maybe keep the lights on for closing hours." His eyes crinkled in the faintest smile. "Sometimes, trouble looks for the easy target. Don't be an easy target." Outside, the motorcycles roared to life, engines humming through the empty streets. One by one, The bikers mounted their machines, and with a final nod, they disappeared into the night. Aisha lingered behind the counter a moment longer, letting the silence wrap around her. She felt a strange mix of exhaustion, relief, and admiration. The night had been frightening, unpredictable, but it had ended with something almost cinematic. Justice in the shadows, arriving when needed most. She finally flipped the closed sign with a steady hand, breathing deeply. The store doors locked behind her, but the sense of security lingered. Tonight had shown her something powerful. Courage doesn't always come from strength. It sometimes comes from the people willing to stand with you, silently, without expectation, ready to act when it counts. And as she stepped out into the cool night air, Aisha knew she'd never forget the heroes on motorcycles who had turned fear into safety, one quiet, decisive act at a time.